This program is brought to you by First National Bank of Botswana.
FNB, how can we help you?
When the dust settles from this tussle with COVID-19, especially against its effect on the global economy, another mammoth task of restoring normalcy would ensue. Efforts to stop the possible spread of the virus have catapulted the economy into a debilitating anxious state. Though a necessary evil, imposing travel bans and other regulatory measures has put a damper on the hospitality and tourism sector, the entertainment sector, amongst others. More than these economic giants, the SMMEs, especially the informal sector, have been incapacitated to make a living as well. Most of these are from the informal sector, who depended on the movement and traffic of people going to work, children going to school. But while this situation improves, what happens to their income-generating streams? Various media outlets in Botswana purported that there was a need for a bailout for companies to stay afloat, while also looking into how the informal sector can be rescued. With us is Chief Economist Moatlhodi Sebabole, who will give us an overview of Botswana post-coronavirus. What is a lockdown? What does it mean economically? And the state of emergency. How do they correlate, and how are we as a people and the economy going to be affected?
It essentially means the country will be operating at minimal levels in terms of economic and business activity, as well as even just movement of people, movement of goods, even movement of services, as it might be. So what it then means is, for those 28 days, we would only see continuance of businesses' activities that are deemed essential. His Excellency alluded to several of those, looking at health, looking at services even around when you're talking about fuel, which is more on the logisticals, looking at even food, if you're looking into your food supply chain over time. So essentially what it means is for that period, very minimal activities is expected except for these services that are deemed essential. It could even be your services such as your payments, which would still have to continue over the cycle of a lockdown to facilitate some level of activity that needs to happen. We've seen South Africa during a lockdown. We've seen the likes of Uganda during a lockdown. We've seen the likes of Namibia, to mention a few. Even in developed markets in your UK, your US, we've seen actually that being implemented across different states to contain the spread, but then implications for businesses, you've said, implications for individuals, for consumers and all. It means that with that minimal business activity, with that minimal economic activity, there will be very little on the production side. There will be very little on interaction between a supplier and a user of what is being supplied. So very little economic activity over that period, which is what we've also seen in many different markets. We've started to see here that in Botswana, a limited number of people who can be in a restaurant, essentially some restaurants closing even before the announcement of the lockdown. In other instances, even other places like bars being closed early on before this lockdown came through. So what it then means is just a more extreme social distancing measures, which mean very minimal economic activity or business activity unless absolutely necessary, which is why it emphasizes on essentials.
We've seen that all of these impositions and regulations having an effect on various sectors of the economy. I mean, a few weeks ago it was the tourism sector, the tourism and hospitality sector, because there weren't any tourists coming in. We were seeing the entertainment sector with the festivals being postponed to an indefinite date. Like you were saying right now, the restaurants as well. But as it is right now, how is that situation going to improve or to get worse from here? What sort of implications and impacts are we looking at? Revenues, staff, the livelihood actually, or the life of the business itself?
The impact of the lockdown on the economic outturn is definitely pointing to subdued economic activity. If businesses that typically operate are not operating, it then means loss of revenue that will otherwise would have been earned when things were operating as normal. You talk about impacts. We could start on it even from just formal and informal sector. Who gets hit the most? Look at the informal sector. An informal sector typically is not included in the formal sector dynamics for tax payments, even for financial payments and all of those. So informal sector, you might find in there, you're finding, your street vendors, you're finding even some, who depend on foot traffic for them to maintain their livelihood, because there's people who are actually kind of moving from one place to the other. So the informal sector obviously is going to be very impacted, and we cannot ignore it in that, there's a majority of livelihoods which depends on the sector for a living. You also look at your small, medium, and macro enterprises. Again, you find a lot of their cash flows are such that they cannot sustain or continue to operate as a business over a month or days if there's no cash coming in, simply because there are obligations that probably have got to do with debt obligations if it's payment for loans. There are obligations when it means you're talking around utilities, such as rent, such as power, electricity, obligations such as your salaries, as an example. So you will find that some of those commitments that are associated with doing business, especially at SMME level, which then means it becomes extremely difficult for those businesses to continue to exist. It also means it doesn't end with SMMEs. Even at corporate level, you'll have that impact cutting across the different sectors of the economy. Those businesses which are not otherwise on the essential services will also have to run at minimal or close to minimal operations, which then means also limited revenues or limited cash flows, at least inflows. So this lockdown has been accommodated or accompanied with a fiscal package. A fiscal package of sorts is meant to cushion the economy from a hard landing. When the president announced the interventions that the government is putting in place, among others, he indicated interventions such as expediting VAT payments, expediting payments for suppliers in terms of suppliers paid within 5 days, expediting payment for suppliers in terms of suppliers where there are verified bills that are existing, which are not yet paid, that they will be paid within 2 weeks, among others. He also indicated an economic stimulus package that will be highlighted over the course of time. He indicated also for private sector to take interventions as well as supportive measures for the economy.
When running a business means
Where did I put that receipt?
we can help you with instant accounting, free software that does your bookkeeping for you. When running a business means
Wait, what do you mean the container hasn't arrived?
we help protect your business from risk with Mohwebi Insurance. And when it means
How do we pay our staff that don't have bank accounts?
we help you make multiple payments directly to people's phones with e-wallet bulk send. At FNB, we're constantly innovating to help business owners at every stage of their journey.
The fiscal package from government for the business community needs for the beneficiaries to have certain documentation in place, such as for their taxes. But what of the informal sector? What is in place for them, and how would they benefit?
Your question of more informal or otherwise small medium enterprises whose books are not in good standing as is, because they might have been struggling before the situation, and the informal that relies on people movement. What we've seen in other markets and what interventions that we're seeing is actually ones now that are more social support structures. And I think in the context of Botswana, as you've seen, the COVID relief measure fund that has been set by government, which there's been a calling for private sector to contribute towards, for individuals to contribute towards. Those are instances now where you have to put in place social support measures to ensure that those informal sectors or otherwise your less privileged members of society, even as individuals, would continue to earn some form of living at a time where they are not undertaking any jobs, or maybe they were even on a contract job basis of a no job, no pay. And so such support measures normally come from a more social incentive fund, a relief fund, which then just looks into the social aspect of making sure at least the bare minimum of the services and provisions for support is accorded. The difficulty or the challenge in that is obviously how do you roll it out? Who benefits and how do you expedite it? So it's a process that really requires a very quick turnaround, because a delay on it means you'll start to see either those individuals or those SMMEs having to let go of certain people who are earning income there.
But all of that, can our economy handle it? The bailouts that we've just been talking about, and what would it take, monetary-wise, capital-wise, and support-wise, in whatever form, for every sector here to recover?
I think something that we're realizing is, in a twisted type of way, the world is united in thinking. United in thinking of combating the spread and containing the spread of obviously COVID, and similarly also in making sure that the economies do not collapse or overheat as a process. Which is why, yes, the size of the packages might differ from country to country depending on the level of sophistication of that economy and whether it's more of a developed or an emerging economy such as ourselves. We've got room to maneuver in that, unlike many of our peers, we are one of the only remaining two economies in Africa which still have an investment grade. So that means we still have capacity to institute debt that can assist us to fund the expenditures that we find ourselves having to fund at a cheaper cost than our other African peers who are downgraded or who are rated junk, meaning that they will have to pay a higher premium or a higher interest to continue to access that debt.
When running a business means
Where did I put that receipt?
we can help you with instant accounting, free software that does your bookkeeping for you. When running a business means
Wait, what do you mean the container hasn't arrived?
we help protect your business from risk with Mohwebi Insurance. And when it means
How do we pay our staff that don't have bank accounts?
we help you make multiple payments directly to people's phones with e-wallet bulk send. At FNB, we're constantly innovating to help business owners at every stage of their journey.